Power isn't where you think it is. Governments don't control everything anymore. But have you ever stopped to ask, who really pulls the strings? Who decides what you see, what you buy, even how your country responds to a crisis? Today, we dive into the hidden forces shaping our world: corporations, NGOs, militias, and even hackers. Because the real rulers aren't always the ones with flags and borders. Alright, let's be real. Once upon a time, it was easy to know who was in charge. Kings, presidents, emperors, they had the crowns, the thrones, the funny hats. But fast forward to today, and the world is basically a giant group project where no one knows who's actually doing the work, but somehow decisions get made. Sure, countries still matter, but they're sharing the spotlight with some unexpected players. Giant corporations are out here making more money than actual nations. NGOs are stepping in to do the job some governments can't or won't. And terrorist groups, militias, and cyber hackers are rewriting the rules of conflict. The old school idea that only states have real power? Yeah, that's outdated. Take multinational corporations. Companies like Apple or oil giants have so much cash and influence that governments literally compete for their attention. Countries bend over backward, offering tax breaks, deregulation, and VIP treatment just to get them to invest. And these corporations aren't just making phones and drilling oil. They're shaping trade agreements, labor laws, and even foreign policies. Some of them are richer than entire countries, which begs the question, who's really running the show? Then you've got NGOs like Amnesty International and Doctors Without Borders who aren't running countries but still manage to influence laws and policies. They're out here holding governments accountable, fighting for human rights, and stepping into crisis zones when official institutions fail. In some cases, they've even pushed global treaties into existence, like the 1997 landmine ban, something actual governments struggled to agree on. But, and here's where it gets messy, NGOs rely on donations, sometimes from those same governments or billionaires with their own agendas. So are they truly independent, or just another piece of the power puzzle? Meanwhile, militias and terrorist organizations shake up global security, sometimes even dragging nations into wars they didn't plan for. Groups like ISIS and Boko Haram don't care about borders or diplomacy. They rewrite the rules of conflict, forcing states to react. The U.S. war on terror, surveillance expansion, military invasions, these were all responses to non-state actors, proving that you don't need to be a country to change world history. And let's not forget militias. Some of them are backed by governments while still acting independently, making them both allies and wild cards. And don't even get me started on failed states, where militias become the de facto government. Look at Libya. Various armed groups are fighting for control, with outside powers picking sides like it's some kind of geopolitical Hunger Games. When central governments collapse, these militias step in, not just fighting but governing, enforcing their own laws, and deciding who gets resources. The more unstable a region, the more power shifts to these non-state actors, making diplomacy a nightmare. And just when you think states can contain them, you realize that some governments actually prefer to use these groups as proxies, funding them, training them, and pretending to have clean hands while they influence conflicts from the shadows. The interactions between states and non-state actors are complex and often contradictory. On one hand, states attempt to regulate and contain the influence of powerful non-state entities through laws, sanctions, or military action. On the other hand, they also rely on them. Corporations drive economic growth, NGOs provide humanitarian assistance where governments fall short, and militias sometimes serve as proxies in geopolitical rivalries. There are instances where non-state actors rival or even surpass states in influence. Tech giants such as Google and Facebook control vast amounts of data, shaping public discourse and even influencing elections. Similarly, NGOs like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation play a central role in global health initiatives, funding vaccination campaigns that governments struggle to implement. Meanwhile, transnational criminal networks such as drug cartels operate with impunity in certain regions, challenging law enforcement and undermining state authority. These examples illustrate how power in the international system is no longer monopolized by states alone, but is increasingly distributed among a diverse array of actors. Real-world case studies further demonstrate the impact of non-state actors on geopolitics. The involvement of private military contractors, such as the Wagner Group in Russia, showcases how governments outsource military operations to avoid direct accountability. Similarly, the role of corporate lobbying in climate change policies reveals how multinational corporations can either obstruct or accelerate environmental action. Humanitarian efforts by non-governmental organizations in war zones, such as Syria, highlight their ability to provide essential services in places where states have failed. These examples underscore the shifting nature of global influence, where the power dynamics between states and non-state actors continue to evolve. Looking to the future, the role of non-state actors in global affairs is likely to expand further. Technological advancements such as artificial intelligence and cyber warfare are creating new avenues for non-state influence. Hacktivist groups and cybercriminal networks now pose significant threats to national security, challenging traditional defense strategies. The rise of decentralized movements fueled by social media enables activists to mobilize on a global scale, pressuring governments in ways that were previously unimaginable. As these trends continue, the geopolitical landscape will become even more complex, requiring states to adapt to a world where authority is increasingly fragmented. Ultimately, the distinction between state and non-state actors is no longer as clear-cut as it once was. While states remain the primary legal entities in international relations, non-state actors wield considerable power in shaping economic, political, and security outcomes. Their influence can be constructive, as seen in humanitarian efforts and technological innovations, or destabilizing, as evidenced by terrorism and organized crime. The interactions between these actors define the modern geopolitical order, highlighting the need for a nuanced understanding of how power operates in an increasingly interconnected world. I'll leave you to discuss in the comments. Do you think non-state actors will eventually have more power than governments? You can support us by subscribing if you haven't already. Take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and I'll catch you soon in another video.